Welcome back to Mangastorian. My name's Benny. I read a lot of manga, and I love to talk about it. That's the gist of the entire channel. I really don't have much more to add to this, but today we're going to be talking about 20 chapters within the One Piece saga. I started this little video series over here, which I call my One Piece Reading Club, and basically I'm reading One Piece for the first time ever. Today we're going to be talking about chapters 237 to about 259, 260, somewhere in that range is about where I decided to take a little bit of a breather. You might be wondering why it's taken so long to get to these chapters and why I'm not just doing all of Skypiea in one big break. Well, it's because the word break is important. I took a vacation, and I thought it would be super cool to go read Dragon Ball and not realize how long Dragon Ball was. Oh well, we're back to One Piece. Here we go. Oh, and today's episode is brought to you by Shortboxed and Gamer Subs. Let's cut to that ad roll that I pre-recorded. Did right here. Hey everyone, today's episode is brought to you by two sponsors, the first of which is Shortboxed. Shortboxed is an app for collectors by collectors. It's a way to get your graded comic books to add to your collection easily by going through their app and using it to help facilitate getting trustworthy partners to send you the proper graded comic books. But we're also doing this because they're doing their first ever convention down in LA. The link will be down below, but on May 7th, they're going to have their first ever event called Shortboxed Live. It's going to be at the Santa Clara Convention Center, and I'm here to tell you about Shortboxed and their convention. Both links will be down below. But today's episode is also brought to you by our long-running sponsor, Gamer Subs. Gamer Subs is a great energy drink brand. You buy yourself a tub, the tub has a powdered energy drink within it, and you put it into your water. I find it to be less chunky than its competitors, and I love the dosage of caffeine because it lets me measure it to add to my coffee for the day, so I can kind of have both because I'm a coffee fanatic, but I also love my Gamer Subs. But they also run things such as the Waifu Cups and Waifu Brand. Basically, you get all kinds of crazy anime women on your shaker cups to put your crazy Gamer Subs flavors into. So that's today's sponsor, Shortboxed and Gamer Subs. Now let's get to the video. Welcome back. I didn't go anywhere. Anyway, right, continuity. Today we're going to talk about Skypiea, like I said, chapters 237 to 259, 260. And I actually had a problem with this particular series of chapters, and I think it also comes out of my feelings about the Jaya chapter. So I wrote a bunch of notes down so I wouldn't lose track, because that was the only downside. I read this batch of chapters over the course of like 2 weeks while on vacation. Today on the One Piece NPR Hour, we're going to be talking about the philosophy of Usopp and why I believe that he's a liar no matter what ends up happening with him. And we're also going to be talking about Sanji's weird obsession with Nami's t-shirt. Yes, there's an entire segment in here in which he wonders why she put out a shirt, and he's really sad about it. Alright, so starting at the beginning, basically our heroes have found their way up into the Sky Islands, and they've discovered that there's two levels of Sky Worlds. There's like lower Sky Islands and upper Sky Islands, and the upper Sky Islands have their own culture and everything going on, and they run into what appears to be like some crazy guy who's going to be fighting against them, and they find a weird fish, and they cook the weird fish. The whole beginning is kind of just them being there, and then we discover for the first time the first important character, Sky Knight, who we discover later is the former Kami, but right now he's just the Sky Knight. And when he arrives, I get very strong vibes of Don Quixote. Now, if you don't know who Don Quixote is, he's from classical literature. And basically, Don Quixote is a guy who, I don't remember the full story that well. I had to read it when I was like in high school, and I'm an old man. So I believe Don Quixote was like either had dementia or he was blind or something. But basically, his companions kind of made his adventure better for him. But he was this old man. And I discovered later that Sky Knight is not Don Quixote, but I just wanted to say that when he first got introduced, that was the vibe I got. This old man with a big beard and a full suit of armor riding a Pegasus into battle. I was like, oh, we're gonna do a Don Quixote thing? We're not. I don't even know why I'm still talking about it. But anyway, we moved forward. They met the Sky Knight, and then they went to the doorway to get to wherever the next section was. It's like Heavens, whatever, or something. Basically get to the next batch of islands. That's where they met a little old lady. And the little old lady told them they have to pay the toll. And the toll was crazy expensive. So they asked what happens if they don't pay the toll. And she told them that they could just go through the gate. Did not specify that they'd be breaking the law or that they would be going through and causing problems. So the Sky Pirates, the Straw Hat Pirates. The Straw Hat Pirates decide they're going through the gate, not aware that it's causing a problem. And then the little old lady then calls up the Kami, the god of this area, to inform them that they have slipped through without paying the toll. Okay, cool. That leads us to the first batch of islands in which we get, I wrote their names down. I don't remember the old man's name, but I wrote the other character. Conus? Yeah, Conus. Conus or Conus. It's pronounced one of those two ways. Again, I'm reading the manga. I'm not watching the TV show. So for those who know the pronunciation, even though apparently it's just wrong in there anyway. So they meet with Conus. They meet with her father, who then introduces them to the Sky Islands. They show them a waiver, I believe it's called. Or it's basically like a jet ski. Show them how that works. Nami's obsessed with it, having a blast with it. Luffy's upset because Nami can control it and he can't control it. So he seems kind of like a kid. It was actually kind of funny where he's like, why does she get... Tell her to come in. Tell her to come in. I want to try again. So that was pretty cool. I enjoyed seeing that whole thing come together. But this is where I started to get a weird vibe for this. And I'm going to talk more about this at the end of my discussion on these particular chapters, because it just didn't feel like One Piece at this point. But I'll get to what I'm talking about in a minute. So anyway, Nami rides off where she discovers that everyone goes to another island to basically die as punishment for doing wrongdoings in this area. The upper cloud limit, or Kevin just told it to me actually. It was the upper yard. That's it. So she starts talking about the upper yard and all the different islands and how this whole area works. And what we discover is that they are now wanted because they didn't pay the entrance fee to get in, which now makes the fee that they could just pay millions of berries. It turns out that what they were asking for is the currency of the Sky Islands, or I guess I'll just call it Skypiea because it's what this is all good. This is the Skypiea arc. It's going to become Skypiea, whatever. So they haven't said that yet, but I know. I mean, it's called Skypiea for a reason. Anyway, the currency there made it sound like they owed a lot of money. They wouldn't have owed a lot of money, but now that they didn't pay it, due to the fees and the fines, they owe a lot of money. So we're just kind of back to where we started, which is it's a fun little thing, like if they had just asked more questions, they wouldn't be in trouble. They quickly defeat the first people that were sent in to arrest them, and these guys ride away and warn them that this is the worst thing that could have happened to them. So now they're in a panic, as much of a panic as the Straw Hat Pirates are going to have. Their version of, okay, we should probably just go. And the plan turns into getting out of there. That's when Conus and her father, we find out a few chapters in, but basically call the Sky Police to come and get them. So while Luffy and, what was it? It was Luffy, Sanji, Usopp. That was who it was. Okay, so it's Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp are on the island with Conus' father and Conus, while the ship gets picked up by some crazy creature and just hauls off Nami, Zoro, Nico Robin, we'll use her full name so I can be unique and be me. Nico Robin and Chop Reindeer Guy. So they get hauled off to go pay for punishments, and we find out that this is all a plan. Basically, hold those four hostage so that Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp can't just leave. They got to go rescue everybody. We started to learn more about this island during this period. The Kami has crazy powers. Everyone is afraid of him. He can do lightning calls from the sky. Conus ratted them all out. She ends up getting them a boat, which I actually thought, I know it was only 2 or 3 panels, but it was really kind of touching. Was she got them a boat to get around, and Luffy, just being Luffy's like, I don't want that boat. I want that boat. And she's like, well, I can't afford that boat. I'm really sorry. And then I think it was Nami's like, you need to apologize. She got everything she could get us. And it was just, Luffy's just immediately apologizing. And I just thought it was kind of like a sweet little, it was maybe a page, but it was just like, oh yeah, that's definitely Luffy. He's pulling a Luffy. He's just like, oh, I want the big boat. And then he was apologizing. Conus, I'm so sorry. It's not what I meant. I liked that. But one of the moments I actually really liked was when we find out Conus was betraying them. So they start wondering why she's afraid, why this is going on. She got them the boat. Oh, no, it was Usopp. Usopp yelled at Luffy because Nami wasn't there. I know, ADD brain. Usopp yelled at Luffy, telling him that's all that she could afford. What are you doing? Anyway, we find out that the reason she's afraid is she's the one that ratted out the Straw Hats. So that's how they got hauled away. And in standard awesome hero moments, they're like, well, why didn't you just tell us that? You didn't have to trick us. We could have just gone and taken care of this if you just filled us in. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what they would do. They want to side with Conus, and they know that she's afraid of the Kami who can do the lightning calls and all this crazy stuff. So this leads to Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp going down the challenge. And there's 4 challenges, and they picked the challenge of the ball because they thought it would be easy. And it's they end up in a battle against a guy who's the size of a ball and has a bunch of balls, and the balls are all bouncing around and they all explode and they got stuff in the balls and there's just balls in everyone's faces. How many times can I say balls while describing a ballroom? It's just like a big ball attack. So many balls going on. That was when they were separated, balls on balls on balls, and just balls everywhere. And what I found great about this was Usopp and Luffy are both messing up trying to get this taken care of. They're both like Tarzaning around on these vines trying to do this battle. And Sanji's the serious one because they both keep missing and they're just having fun swinging around fighting the balls. And Sanji's like, could you just stop? You almost hit me. And it was a great moment in general because they're not actually even fighting the ball guy. They're just swinging around the ball guy. So that was funny. But while that's going on, Nami, Zoro, Robin, and I've made it a goal now. Can I call her Nico? Call her Robin and call her Nico Robin. Just interchangeably. Anyway, so Chopper, Nico, Nami, and Zoro are all on the other side where they all decide to go on the island to figure out what's going on. But that's when Chopper ends up fighting against his own villain. The guy shows up. He's one of the challenges. He breaks the mast on the ship, tearing it off. Chopper's freaking out, not knowing what to do, but that's when the Sky Knight, the old man that I thought was Don Quixote, shows up, and I realize he's not Don Quixote because he showed up and was just badass fighting against his other challenger with Chopper trying to figure out what's going on, and he basically saves Chopper. But he gets like mortally wounded in the middle of all of this, and while this is going on, Nami, Nico Robin, and Zoro are on the other side of the island trying to figure out what they're doing. Now, what they figure out through looking at different ruins and stuff like that is that this is actually what Nolan the Liar was talking about. So they put it all together, and basically, Nolan the Liar was talking about a grand treasure on one side of Jaya. And the assumption was that that side of the island had sunken. But what they figured out is that side of the island didn't sink. It got shot up into the sky and has now become a part of these Sky Islands. So that's when that kind of gets revealed. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. We're getting more into this. We're figuring out what's going on with the Sky Islands. We're figuring out what's going on with Jaya and everyone else that's going on. You know, so we've got the group broken into 3 sections. We basically have Usopp, Sanji, and Luffy fighting the ball guy, trying to make their way to Nami, Robin, and Zoro and Chopper. And then while that's going on, Chopper is with Sky Knight while the others are figuring out what's going on. So a lot was happening all at once. And I wasn't having any problems following it, but I felt like because so much was going on, we were moving very quickly through each portion. We weren't really spending a lot of time developing a lot of them because, sure, we're going to do the ball guy fight, but then we're going to spend some time goofing off, which is, One Piece, and I get that. But once again, I'll get to what I kind of felt weird about this segment of chapters and the Jaya segment once we get to the end of this. So anyway, they come back to the ship. They find the mast destroyed. They find the injured Sky Knight. They decide they're going to take care of the Sky Knight and figure out what's going on. That's when we get the reveal that he's actually the former Kami, who's the former god of these islands. And basically, over the course of the next couple of chapters, it's revealed that he's the former Kami. And that there's this rebellion going on. And I can't remember the name right now, but it's related to the whole island and stuff like that. But there's this rebellion going on. And that rebellion is the original inhabitants that were on the Jaya Island 400 years ago. It's the descendants. And they've been in a constant battle with the current Kami to try and retake their land. So that is a whole thing that's happening, which also made me be like, didn't we just do 2 other rebellions? Because we had the Alabasta one, which really wasn't a rebellion, I guess, but it was kind of towards the end. But then we also had the Vivi rebellion, where that was a whole nother thing going on. So I'm just kind of now wondering, are we just going to be a part of a rebellion every 100 chapters? We got 100 chapters, do a rebellion. The Straw Hats are in a rebellion. Because I'm based on previous chapters, I feel like they're going to help get that island back from the Kami. But anyway, so we discover all of this as to what's actually going on. And then they also start peppering in the Kami that's causing the problems, the god of the island that is causing all these issues, because he doesn't like what's going on either. But the big reveal basically turns into... the big reveal, I'll get to in a second, because what happens is basically Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp end up beating Ball Guy, who's shocked that they beat him, because the challenge was to beat him and then get back in your boat so you can get out of the forest. They do all of that, and they get out of the forest. It comes out on the other side where they end up running into Nami, Zoro, Chopper, Nico Robin, and Sky Knight. So, everyone's back together, and that's when they start putting the pieces together. That Nolan wasn't lying, that this is the other island. Kami explains everything, Sky Knight explains everything, and we know what's really going on here. And the big goal now becomes, we're going to get the treasure. Because if this is the island of Jaya that got shot into the sky and didn't sink to the bottom of the ocean, and Nolan wasn't lying, that means that in the right eye of the skull, and she puts the maps together, which actually kind of threw me off because she put the maps together, and I'm looking at it, and maybe Kevin can find the image, but together the maps make a skull. And what they're explaining is that in the skull's right eye is the gold. And I'm like, cool. But the way that she's holding the maps, I've got it on my tablet, and I'm turning the tablet to try and look at it sideways because I don't realize that the way she's holding it shows a skull. So I'm turning it sideways. It's flipping the image, and I'm like, where's the skull? What is she doing? Like, how does this work? And my tablet's just flipping, and I'm flipping, and I finally put it down like, okay, whatever. I'll turn my head sideways. So then I got the tablet on the ground, and I'm like turning me sideways, trying to read it, and I still couldn't see it, and I finally got frustrated, and I looked back at it straight on, and I'm like, oh, that's the skull. So now they're trying to get to the right eye where the gold is. But then we get more introductions to the Kami, the guy who's causing the problems and everyone's afraid of, and he reveals that they found the gold. So they're going for the gold. And then he also reveals about the rebellion, and he introduces the other challengers. So now we're moving into, they're no longer being punished. They're going for this gold, and they're going to be fighting against the challengers, and the rebellion's in the way, and everything is set up. And I'm excited to see where this is going to go. But I got to the end of this section. Like, I got to about I guess it was like 258 to 260. I'm somewhere in there, where a lot of the explanations are coming out, and we're starting to reveal what's going on, and everything's happening. And I'm keeping in the back of my head what you guys have been saying since the beginning. Every little thing matters, Benny. So don't push it off. Don't assume it's nothing. Try to pay attention to as much of this as you can, which is why I have these notes. The notes are here so that I can try, because a lot of times if I write it down, that's, to me, will get it in my head. So I write down every little thing that I think is important. But what I realize between Jaya and this, we've had about 50 chapters where the Sky Pirates are being more reactive than proactive. And you're probably going, what the hell are you talking about? So what I found interesting in the first 200 chapters of this is that while things happened to the Sky Pirates, why do I call them Sky Pirates? Straw Hat Pirates. While things don't get me in a sky area and don't expect I'm going to call everyone Sky Pirates, okay? So what I found in the first 200 chapters, and this is what I actually really enjoyed about One Piece and all of its characters, is things would happen to our Straw Hats. You know, they would be going along and Buggy would be in the town. They would find Zoro tied up. They would get Nami on board and Nami would run off, so they would follow Nami. But while things were happening to them, every decision following the actual event was an active decision by our crew. Luffy insisting on helping Nami. Luffy insisting on fighting Buggy to free the town. Like, these are moments that was actively decided upon. Even the whole big moment with Vivi and what ended up happening over there, and I can't remember the name of the arc right now, and you're all going to yell at me for that, but whatever. What happened with Vivi was he got dragged into there and then made the active decision that she has to ask him for help so he can go do this thing. But ever since we've gotten to Jaya, it's just things happening to the Straw Hats and them kind of being like, okay, that's cool. And they're not really doing much. Even when they were accused of breaking into the Sky Islands and having a big bounty on their head, their decision was to leave. It wasn't to actively go fight the Kami or figure out what's going on. And that just feels kind of weird when we've had 200 chapters of these characters actively deciding to see an injustice or to find a problem or to find somebody who's down on their luck and actively deciding to become a part of that discussion and be a part of that adventure. So Jay is where I first started to feel that, because I feel like the last time Luffy made the decision to do something like that was when they beat up the guy in the hut, the monkey pirates or whatever they are, the leader of that group. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I could probably scroll back on my notes. See? Notes are useful. Oh, geez, there's a lot of weird notes in here. A lot of naked girls, too, because I'm trying to do a lot of art class stuff. But anyway, don't judge me. I'm trying to learn how to sketch better. I see you judging. But the point is, what I'm getting at is, I feel that the last time Luffy said, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to be a hero, I'm going to wrong an injustice, is when he marched back to that one town, the one that was basically Tortuga, to fight against the guys that stole the money and all this stuff from the guy that was going to help rebuild their boat. And that was like, 30 to 40 chapters. And I feel like this is the longest we've gone where the characters are just reacting to something as opposed to proactively deciding that they're going to fix the problem or they're going to fix the injustice. And maybe that's a sign of One Piece developing, because we are moving into an arc. This arc goes from 237 to like 302. This is the longest arc that I'm going to be reading at this point. So it might be a sign that the story is now developing beyond more short-sighted goals and we're moving more into these longer form arcs. Because if you have a longer form arc, we don't need the crew to immediately be reacting to everything. We need, or proactively doing something. We can take the time to build out these new characters, to build out this new world element, to explain things. Because there's one thing I said to Kevin as I'm reading through this. Skypiea feels so different, I think, on the other hand, not because they're also just being reactive to everything and not proactive, but also because I feel like every chapter is just explaining the new world building elements. Because we went from an ocean with a lot of basic elements and stuff that we can easily explain, and we're moving into Skypiea where everything's different. We have fish going through clouds. Does the clouds have a bottom to the ocean? Do you fall through? What are these big monsters? What is the culture of these people? Why does Konos have antenna on her head? What is this jet ski? There's a lot to explain to get Skypiea to make sense. Now, I chose to end here instead of like reading more and bringing you guys the next video for two reasons. One, I haven't done a One Piece video, I think, in like 2 weeks, and that wasn't intentional. With the company went on a vacation, and I just kind of fell right in the middle of that. But the other reason is, according to everyone, because they don't spoil it for me, but they kind of tell me where the breaking points are, the next 40 chapters, things are going to go crazy, and it's going to super amp up. So my goal is to read the next 40 in a sitting, get to the ending of Skypiea. But that's where we are right now. I've gone through this. It's been a lot of world building, a lot of decompression, a lot of just chill time with the Straw Hat Pirates and the Sky Pirates. And I really have been enjoying it, but I'm starting to wonder why because previously I'd sit down and be like, I'm going to read 5 chapters. And I'd get 20 chapters through it. Just like, I'm like just so hooked. But this time I sat down and was like, I'm going to read 5 chapters. Because that's what I do. I read at least 3 to 5 chapters a day, no matter what. That's my goal. And if the story's engaging me, then I read through it all. But if it's not, I get the 5 and I come back the next day. So that's kind of where I've been at with these right now. Based on what I've heard, it's going to change in a minute, but I wanted to make this video here to see if you guys felt the same way about going from Jaya to the beginning of Skypiea to now what we're about to hit. And it might just be because I'm reading the manga version and not the anime, where the anime can have a lot more emotion and a lot more expression than I can put forth into this. I do think there was this one funny moment when they were fighting towards the back half of what I was reading, they were fighting against what Zoro called a catfish, but it's like basically a giant snake. And I read through the chapter twice because the artwork was it was very confusing what's going on, who was connecting and who was fighting. So I literally read through it twice and I'm like, all right, I guess they're just fighting this thing. Let me move on. And then it was like the next page, everyone's separated. They didn't know what was going on either. And that was the funny thing because they're all like, where is everybody? And I'm like, oh, okay, it's not just me. Nico, Robin, Luffy, and Zoro are also lost. Also, I'm a little disappointed in Nico Robin because she joined the crew and I was kind of excited. Like, all right, cool. We got like another devil fruit eater. One, because like I think it's only Luffy that's a devil fruit user up to this point on the crew. So she joins and she has the powers and she's like not done anything like at all. She's barely in the conversations. Occasionally she does she made like a seat for somebody. She made her arms into like a vine. That was cool. But at least like ever since she joined up, Jaya arc and this arc, she hasn't done much. So I'm a little disappointed in her. I'd like to see more, see what she can do. Because although up until then in the desert arc with Vivi, she was just mysterious. And now she's less mysterious and more hanging out. That's kind of what she's not doing anything. The most I think she's participated in has been kind of like, yes, this ancient artifact. It must have come from Jaya. It's a good thing that I'm conveniently an archaeologist. Like that's like all I can really think of. She's done it to this point. So I doubt that's gonna be her only role. I'm pretty sure she's gonna be more involved. I'm just saying up to this point, what are you doing, Nico? AKA Robin. Anyway. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know this wasn't our usual episode, and I feel like I was debating not even doing this episode because I felt like maybe we should wait for more chapters, more action, more things for me to get hyped up about. But if I'm doing a reading club and we're doing 1,100 chapters because they're releasing faster than I'm reading. I gotta pick up the pace, man. But if we're doing 1,100 chapters, there's gonna be some slow moments and there's gonna be some videos where I express my opinions on that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. We'll do our usual thing where I have someone on the team kind of skim through them, let me know the ones that are good, and we'll kind of figure out a way to get some reaction going here. I'm trying to work on the community element here at Mangastorian, and I'm not sure how to do that because most of you are on the One Piece videos, and I'm not supposed to read those because you could spoil things. So we're in a weird middle ground here. And I also ordered some One Piece red statues because they're cool, and I'll show you next time. All right. Anyway, guys, I'll see you next time right here at Mangastorian. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you want more.